Bad moment there. I'll play that a little later. Guys, I see my first guest of the evening, and I am pumped to say the least. I'm going to play a little short solo from this legendary drummer and then pick up the great Roy Burns.
And now back to Around the Kit with Joe Gansas.
Guys, we are back, 646-787-8027. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kit the legendary Roy Burns. Roy, Joe Gansas, Around the Kit. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm calling you from California.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me some of your time today. It's my pleasure, Roy. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Great, great stuff. Roy, I want to go back a little bit. Let's get right to it. Let's go back a little bit and take me back a little bit, and let's go back to like Emporia, Kansas, and what was going on, early in the 30s and 40s with a young man named Roy Burns, and you started drumming. What was going on back then?
Well, I started playing on the sidewalk with a couple of stick branches that I made off a small tree, and I would play along with the marching band rhythm section at the local college. They had like an ROTC program of sorts, so they would march with the drum section only, and I would run away from home 2 blocks away and walk along beside the drummers, and then get in trouble when I got home. So finally, this one young guy said, "Can you play the drums?" And I said, "Sure." So here I was, about 7 years old or 6, something like that. And he left me play on his drum. He held it for me. He said, "That's pretty good." He went to see my mother and said, "Listen, if you don't get this kid lessons, it's going to be a crime. He's got so much talent. He can play all this stuff with no training. You've got to get him drum lessons." So my mother prevailed on my father to pay for the drum lessons, which were 50 cents a piece. And my father said, "If I ever hear that you didn't practice, that's the end of the lessons. I'm not paying out this money for nothing." So after about a year, he said to my mother, "How are we going to make him stop? All he does is practice hours and hours a day. I can't stand it." So we reached an agreement that I wouldn't practice on Sunday for my father.
Great,
and that's
great.
how I got started. Yeah.
Take me back. What kind of town, what kind of area are we talking about in Emporia, Kansas?
Well, it was a good town for me because the local college of Emporia was there. It's a pretty big school, part of the state collegiate system. And it was the center of all the cultural activity for all the surrounding smaller towns. So I was in the best place I could have been in Kansas, I would say, or one of the best, because so much music is at the university. And that's where I took my first lessons, from a man who was a violinist. They didn't have a drummer on staff at the local college. So he told me at each lesson, he said, "Roy, you've got good hands, but you must learn to use your noodle." In other words, if you're going to play music, you have to think about it. You can't just wail away and have that be it. So that was my first real command, use your noodle. And I never forgot it. He was a very nice man.
Now, Roy, this is in about 1940, I guess, 1942, around there that we're talking right now, maybe a little later. Who do you have to look up to back then as drummers? I mean, was Buddy Rich somebody you looked up to, or not yet, or guys like that?
Well, in 1945, I was 10 years old. So I
Right.
got a job working at a local dance band. Because the drummer left town, I bought his drum set, and that's how I got in the band. They
Right.
were all guys going back to school after the GI Bill, World War II. So you could buy 78 records out there, 3 minutes on each side, and the Gene Krupa records, some with Buddy Rich with Tommy Dorsey and various bands, and a lot of Gene Krupa, and records like that. So I bought a lot of them. And I listened to, basically, I was a big band drummer all my life because that's what I listened to growing up, was the big swing bands. And, it made a tremendous impression on me. And those drummers like Buddy and Louie and Sonny Igo and some of the other ones were probably my biggest influences.
Right. Absolutely. Guys, we're talking to the great Roy Burns. You know, a little later, I find this fascinating and almost hard to believe. 17 years old, you travel, Roy, to Kansas City. It's a 4-hour train ride each way to study with a gentleman by the name of Jack Miller. You know, what was so fascinating about Jack Miller, or was it he the only guy around? I mean, to go see somebody for 4 hours, he had to be special, no?
Well, he was the only one. There was nobody else that could teach at a professional level, you know. And he was a big help to me. So when Louis Bellson and Buddy Rich came to Kansas City with Jazz at the Philharmonic, a big concert series, I stayed overnight at his house so I could go to the concert. And he squired me in there and took care of me and made sure I had a ticket. And I was 17, sitting out there and watching Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson play. So when Louis Bellson, I found out later, got to his solo, everybody was concerned about this 2-bass drum thing. He didn't seem to play very much with it. I said, that's not so good. Well, I found out this right foot pedal had broken, and he couldn't get the attention of the equipment boy, so he played the whole solo with his left foot. Then it became impressive.
Yeah.
But he came up to the studio and listened to all of us play the next day, and then he played, then he asked me to play again. So I played again. He came over to me and put his hand on my shoulder and said, kid, you're as good as you're going to get if you stay in Kansas. Go to New York or L.A. and study. So 2 years later, I got on a train with $300 and a drum set and went to New York. And I went to a Louis Bellson clinic, and he recognized me. I couldn't believe it. But he had this look on his face like, my God, what have I done? You know, I hope this kid isn't going to ask me for money. He was very nice, and that's how I got going to go to New York, you know. And I took some lessons from Jim Chapin, and he was very nice. Took me to a couple of clubs so he could hear me play. He was very good to me, Jim Chapin.
My question to you about Jack Miller, if I can go back a minute. I mean, 17 years old. I mean, you're much older now, and you've been playing for over 60 years. You know, did Jack Miller sort of always with you in a way? Will you always have a little bit of him in you?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
What comes to mind? What comes to mind is the one thing he told me that I never forgot. He said, evenness creates the illusion of speed. Don't try to play too fast. Just play evenly, and you'll sound fast. And I thought that was a great secret.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you came to New York at 55, 20 years old, and only 1 year later, you started playing with, you know, Woody Herman. You know, how was that, you know, that transition so fast?
Well, when I'm still in Kansas, a teenager, Woody Herman's band came through Emporia, Kansas, and that was a stop-off where they just make expenses to travel to the next big city, like Kansas City, where they'd make money. Excuse me. So the drummer was Sonny Igo, and he was terrific. So I went back, and he talked to me throughout his whole intermission, a half an hour, which was very extraordinary. And he was very nice to me. So when I got to New York, I was 19. I had a drum set and $300. I contacted Sonny Igo, and he recommended me at a later date for Woody Herman's band. So I took an audition, and I got the gig. And the other thing was, since I'd grown up listening to all those swing bands, I was the young guy that could play the older guys' music, which got me off to a fast start.
Great stuff. Just awesome stuff. You you had a great career, and then you start teaching. You know, back then you taught for a long time. My question to you about that is, do you need to take a different approach? Do you have to take a different approach from being behind the kid and in front of the kid, from playing and teaching? Does it have to be so much different for you?
No, it's just all part of stuff, you know. It's like the first clinic I did was in Cleveland. And I hadn't been doing a lot of drum solo work. I was doing studio work, playing the Merv Griffin show and stuff like that.
Right.
So I got through the solos, and I get to the question and answer session. And the guy says, how do you get a good chick on your hi-hat? I said, buy her a drink. And the place went up in smoke. You know, people fell out laughing. And that gave me a new tactic. I had an outlet for my sense of humor, which was a little dry. So when I came off the stage, this big, tall man, about 6'5", gray hair, glasses, says, you play very well, young man, but you're holding your left hand all wrong. Well, I thought he was kidding, because my left hand was way above ordinary. So I said, well, I realized that, sir. It's just that it's been working so good, I hate to fool around with it. He said, I don't like your attitude. I said, why not? He said, it sounds to me like, I want you to know I've taught drums for 30 years. I said, well, it sounds to me like you taught 1 year 30 times. There's a difference. And then Henry Grossman, who owned Rogers at that time, a very nice gentleman, about 5 feet tall, one of the real class guys in our business, came up to me and in a deadly serious tone, he said, Roy, I like your humor. And I started laughing, because it sounded so the opposite of what he was trying to say. He said, no, I'm serious. And I said, I know you're serious, Henry, but I get it, you know. So the humor or telling a little story or something like that became a part of my clinic. So it wouldn't be so dry and so school teaching, right? So we'd tell some stories, demonstrate some things, because I wanted every person there to be able to leave the clinic with one thing they could use, whether they were advanced or in the middle or just beginning. And when I got to England, I was the first drummer to do clinics outside of America. And I was first one was in London. And sure enough, we get to the question and answer session, and here comes the loaded question. What do you think of Ringo Starr? And I said, I never criticize anyone who makes more money than I do. And people cracked up, and I got off the hook.
There you go.
Again, my sense of humor saved me a possibly difficult situation.
Oh, great stuff. Guys, we're talking to the legendary Roy Burns. He's been so nice to come on my show tonight. You know, you've taught for a long time. My question to you about teaching, is Roy Burns, when teaching anybody in drums, can you learn while you're teaching?
Oh, if you're not learning while you're teaching, you're not doing a good job of teaching. You'll see 10 to 20 students a week. They see only you. And each one is different. Each one's got a little bit to offer. And like a friend of mine said, his own recording studio out here now does movie work. And he was one of my students for quite a while. And some guy asked him, he said, what's it like taking drum lessons from Roy Burns? He said, it's kind of like finding out there's no Santa Claus. And I had some really successful students like Josh Freed. He's very successful as one of my students.
Yes.
Let's see how many. Stevie D, who works with I can't think of the guy's name. He used to be at Pink Floyd. And I've had good luck with teaching, mainly because it was always a sideline. I never depended on it for 24 hours making a living or anything. I just enjoyed doing it, and I had time during the day because I was working gigs at night, and my wife was working those days, so I didn't want to sit around the apartment and do nothing, so I give a few lessons. And I learned a lot from the lessons. And I think the kids, what I did was I asked myself, the kids don't want to learn rudiments. They don't want to learn all the old traditional stuff. What if they're right? What if they're right? I mean, who's to say that what we were handed down is perfect? Maybe it wasn't, because I went my own way and didn't do things that everybody said I should, and I did a lot better than a lot of them did. So I realized I have to reconsider. So what I did was drop out a lot of stuff that didn't seem to be pertinent to the particular student. And that worked out very well, and I learned a lot from it. I also learned that a lot of times people who teach professionally, it's not to criticize teachers, because I'm all for education, but the teachers get a system. I studied with one guy for 6 months, and when I went to study with somebody else to get another point of view, he wouldn't speak to me for 2 years because I violated his system. And that's taking it too far. That's overdoing it, you know. I think the best thing that can happen is that once you've taught a guy for a while, and you taught him all you can, or suggested that you go see somebody else, get another point of view, that you should wind up friends. And I can say that in most cases that's been true with me. So I stopped being a teacher, become their friend at a certain point. And that's a much more rewarding way to go about it, I think. At least it is for me. Well, it was. I don't teach anymore.
Right. Great stuff. You know, Roy, every time you sat behind a drum set, whether it's a clinic, a live, a studio, every time a Roy Burns has sat behind a drum set, what's the one main attribute you want to convey outwards?
Well, first of all, respect for the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
I have great respect for drums and drummers. And for anybody that tries to play music in an authentic way, and by authentic I mean music for its own sake, not music to get attention or to become a star or anything like that. Just to be involved in music is such a wonderful thing because you can do it your whole life. Even if you can't play anymore, you can still listen to music. So I think was to suggest, here are the basics. You got to learn the basics. And one of the things I always mentioned was, no teacher can teach you how to play. You have to learn how to do that yourself by playing. So that means that the guy who brags that he's self-taught and he never took a lesson, I said, well, you're self-taught, but so is everybody. It's just you can't read. Because the guys that learn how to read, like Steve Gadd, Louis Bellson, people like that who are very accomplished musicians, they learned how to read, they took the lessons, they went through the whole bit. And they still play great. This idea that if you take lessons, it'll ruin your feeling or ruin your natural talent, that's just false. Mm-hmm. You have to go play to learn how to play. And you don't sit at home and developing a style all by yourself and then inflict it on the public or unsuspecting musicians. You have to learn to play with the music. So my basic rule is always put the music first. If you're looking to play a tune or an arrangement, ask yourself, which I used to ask my students, what's the most important thing a drummer should do? And they'll say, oh, keep good time. I say, well, that's good, but no. He's to help make the music sound good. You want the whole music to sound better. And the only guy who can do that on a bandstand is the drummer, because everything he plays affects every other person more so than any other one young guy. As Panama Francis, the old blues drummer, told me, Roy, a band is like a wheel, and the drummer's the hub of that wheel. And all those horn players and guitar players are nothing but spokes. Now, you got to have them, but he says you can't run on spokes. You can run on just a hub. So the hub is the main thing. So you are at the center of the feeling of the whole band. So if there's two good bands playing, the band with the hottest drummer will be the best sounding band every time. As long as that drummer puts the music first and doesn't try to show off with his latest fill-in that he works out. But yeah, putting the music first, I think, is the key thing. And getting as much information as you can. Like I used to tell in the clinics, whatever's going on today, whatever you think is hip or cool, in 10 years it'll be different. Now, if you don't study, you won't have the means to change and go with the times. It changes all the time. Yeah. And the older you get, the more you notice it, But, yeah, I think those things are always important.
Roy, do you like today's drummer? I mention that because I think there's this new breed of drummers. I mean, you've seen everybody from everybody, I mean, in the last 80 years. I mean, so I can't tell you who you've seen. But I look at these drummers today and these young guys who want to post 30-second videos on YouTube, and then we have to call them great. I think you said it before, some of these new drummers don't have respect, for the drums.
Yeah, but a lot of them do. There are more good young drummers out there today than ever before. And I can tell you what's different about them. Their feet. See, when I was playing, and you played in the big band, you played 4 to the bar and a bass drum, 2 to the bar. And you might play a blues tune where you have a bass drum pattern, boom, 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 something like that. Or maybe a few tricky patterns with the bass drum on the Latin tune. But basically, it was mostly with the hands. And the bass drum was a timekeeping device. These guys today, their feet are so fantastic and so far ahead of the guys of my generation because the music is different. See, it's the music that determines how the drummer plays. And what happens is like with Steve Gadd. When he entered the scene, he was able to play the new music better than anybody else or better than most. So he got a lot of the gigs because that was what was happening at that time. Today, what's happening is different than the guys of my era. But I tell you, there's more good young drummers out there, and they're all practicing, and a lot of them are very sincere. And I have great respect for them. I really do, because they're doing it at a different time, and these times are tough. There aren't as many gigs, not as many places to play. And the music, they have to play more styles, more grooves, and again, the feet. I'm always amazed by that.
Right.
But, I think the drumming is in a very healthy shape right now. What we need is more music so we go play someplace.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Up to this point in your career, you've been playing so long, and I want to get to the clinics in a moment. Are you ultimately happy with the way things have turned out for your career?
Yeah, I'm very happy. Because I did a lot of different things, and I did them at a high level, and I satisfied a lot of my interests. I just tried to be open-minded and learn from everything that came my way, whether or not I was going to use it. If it was interesting, I learned it. Because you never know. All I know is tomorrow is going to be different. And you can't be too prepared. So I tried to learn as much as I could. And I figured you're only young once. And if you don't take that time to learn, when you get to be 30 or 40, it's too late.
Right. Talk to me about the drum clinic in general. You're a pioneer with the drum clinics from years ago. What was your experiences with the drum clinics, and did you really like what was going on there?
Well, I had great fun on the clinics. So it gave me a chance to talk a different part of my personality out, and the sense of humor went with it. And I could play the way I wanted to. I didn't have to be commercial. And I could talk about serious music, serious playing. And I thought it was very good. What I noticed was nobody had ever done enough clinics to have an organized program. Well, when Rogers hired me to be an artist in residence, I kind of took it upon myself, just from doing so many clinics, to develop more comprehensive ways of presenting material. So my idea was to get them to learn the instrument, learn as much about music, and practice while you're young, because there's no second chance to be young, And 10 years later, the music's all different. Look how it was 10 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40 years ago. It's changed dramatically, and it'll keep changing. Where it's going to go, I don't know. But the Internet has had such a profound effect. We have so much information out there now. When I was growing up, you couldn't get any information. Information was like gold. If you get a couple of sentences from a working drummer, you're thrilled. Now there's so much information, you have to wade through 10 feet of garbage to get one little piece of valuable information. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But, I had a great time. I'm very happy with what I did.
Great. Guys, we're talking to the great Roy Burns. 1980, you start a partnership with Ron Marquez, with Aquarian, everything at Aquarian. Talk to me about that transition from playing and a working drummer to a different side of the business.
Well, what happened was Ron Marquez had a powder coating company. That's the black stuff they put on like hatchbacks on cars, camera equipment. Right. And Rogers Drums, owned by CBS, decided that they were going to replace chrome with powder coating, so the stands would be black or red or whatever. Well, Ron was already doing the black foot pedals and the PA boards for Fender amplifiers. He did a lot of work for them. So he called me up one day and said, "Hey, Roy, what's going on at CBS? I'm not getting any work out of these guys." I said, "This place is so screwed up. There's so many idiots working here and big positions that I'm going to quit. I've had it." He said, "Don't do that." He said, "Come over and see me when you get off from work today, because I've got a few ideas. I'd like to expand my business." So we talked, and we decided to go into the percussion accessory business. And, Ron would do the manufacturing, and I would do the product development stuff. And it worked out pretty good. And then we came up with a name because a mentor of mine was an Aquarian. He was an advisor, a friend, a mentor. He was killed in a airplane crash years ago. So when we decided to name the company, he said, "Well, you decide where you're from the music business." I said, "Well, you've got Aquarian coatings. Let's just call it Aquarian Accessories." And that's how we wound up with that name.
Great stuff. Roy, you
And
know,
it's
we're
been a
always...
great-
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. You go ahead.
You know, we're always asking people for their advice, you know, what to do, you know, what would you do here? But my question to you is the opposite of that, Roy Burns. We always asking Roy, Roy, what would your advice be? But what would you tell drummers today from your experience what not to do?
Well, one of the things that's the kind of the golden rule of the music business is your talent will get you the gig. Your behavior will lose you the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, once you get the gig, stop thinking about how good you are or how you stack up, or are you number 3, or are you the best, or is he the best of this or the best of that. Just be the best you that you can be, and put the music first. Don't put your personality first, because that gets to be old real quick. Ed Shaughnessy, my late dear friend, said, you know, it's only the guys that play pretty good that are a pain in the neck, because they're always telling how good they play. The
Right.
guys who really play good, well, you tell me he's done great. So, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. I do the best I can. I think that's the attitude that will endear you to more people, and to keep yourself straight. Because the last thing you want to do is get on an ego trip with the drums, because everybody sees it, and no one likes it. And no one wants to hear you talk about how great you are.
Right.
Because there's always somebody greater, you know?
Yep, absolutely. Roy, I can't thank you for this time. I got one last question. You know,
Sure.
Let's go back to that young boy in Emporia, Kansas. You know, that young boy, you know, what would he say to an 80-year-old Roy Burns now? What would he say to you now?
Pretty good, kid.
I think you did better than pretty good, Roy. We love you. Just great stuff, guys.
Okay.
Aquarian drumheads. Just check out everything at Aquarium Accessories. Roy, at the end of my interview, I can't thank you enough. I asked my guests one question, and it's an honest answer. If you could just answer honestly, it helps me out with every show. Roy Burns, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this interview?
They're all a 10 for me. Because I
Great.
enjoy them, and they were sincere questions, and you gave me time to answer them, and you didn't rush me through it, and you're appreciative, and obviously you went into it with some real thought, because the questions were very good and well organized, and you sound like you're a fun guy.
Roy, I just hope one day we could meet. I got to buy you a beer. We got to hang out somewhere. We got to do
I'll take
something.
you up on it. Come to the NAMM show in California.
You know, I'm going to the Chicago Drum Show in May. I don't know if you're going to be there, but I can't make NAMM.
No, I've never been. I've never been to that one. But
Okay.
Since NAMM is out here, we go to it. You know.
Yeah, great. Roy Burns, I hope there's another 80 years, and I hope down the line we could do this again. Everybody who I've spoken to in the past 2 weeks that I was going to have you on, they have said nothing but nice things about you. Just great stuff. And from Joe Gansas and everybody at Around the Kit, thank you so much, sir, for making my show better tonight.
Well, thank you, Joe, and for all the drummers out there. Keep swinging. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Have a good night, Roy.
Thanks. You too.